Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I've got a big pleasure to introduce Mr. Piotr Wilam. I know that we can talk about him by hours because of his success, but I think that the best thing is ask Piotr to lecture today.
Okay, welcome. It's my pleasure to be here. Today I would like to share my observation about the phenomenon that I'm observing in the world. What is going on in local startup ecosystems, in ecosystems like in Poland, like in Warsaw or Krakow, but also in other parts of the world. So I would like to start with a bit of history. So let us move back to 90s. In 90s, there was the beginning of internet digital revolution. It was the time when technology allowed the new business models to work. So it was the time that lots of internet businesses were born. In Poland, companies like Wirtualna Polska, Onet, Allegro, Internia, and many others were created. And it was in 90s, it worked in such a way that there were local markets. So Polish market was a Polish market, the US market was the US market, German or Swedish markets, it was the same. So basically, these markets were not really connected. People knew, so in Poland, we knew what was going on in Silicon Valley, but there was no direct interaction between one of them and the other. So basically, it was a polycentric world. There were many centers where innovation could be created. Then, in the following period, the bubble burst and not much was happening anywhere in the world. And how it looked like in the years 2005 and 2010. So when I was analyzing what really was going on in this period, here are a couple of observations. So the first thing was that the global companies came to many local markets, among others to Poland. So in 90s, it was these markets were separated. In late 2000, these companies started to make business here. So Polish consumers, Polish businesses started to pay to use applications, software, anything that was coming from abroad. And it is the case not only for Poland, in my opinion, but for most markets. The second thing was that there were dozens or hundreds of new businesses that were basically clones of usually the US companies that had a proven business model. The third observation is that original ideas had no resources in Poland to flourish. So there was lack of know-how, there was lack of network, there was lack of funding. So it was something I observed several times, that there was the same idea in Poland and in the US, and after 2 years the Polish startup was hardly alive, and the US startup was developing really well. It is because, in my opinion, of the whole ecosystem, of the whole environment where the startups were created. Of course, there are a few exceptions of companies that were that started in Poland at that time. And they developed in the model that they started with Poland, and then they started to sell in different markets. But in general, it was there were bad times for innovation in any local market, not only in Poland. So it was the late 2000s, these years, that the global giants started to come to local markets. The local innovation was not able to flourish. There were lots of clones, very few big companies were created. I would like to share a bit of my personal story, what I did for last 4 years. So it was 4 years ago when Marek Kapturkiewicz and I we started Innovation Nest, and it is an early stage venture capital fund. And what we observed was, and our thesis was, that it was the local mindset that limits growth. People were interested only in the local Polish markets. They knew that there is something around it, but they didn't have the motivation, that they did not believe, they did not have resources to expand to a bigger market. So the local mindset, in our opinion, we are in the year 2000, 4 years ago, 4 years ago, 2010, it was our diagnosis that it is a problem. And the mission of Innovation Nest was to help entrepreneurs to build global companies. How? We picked Silicon Valley as a place to learn from. So our diagnosis is that it is a problem of mindset, that there is a local mindset. And a place where this mindset could be imported, could be learned, is Silicon Valley, is the capital of the technological world. Why Silicon Valley? So in Silicon Valley, there is this wonderful pay-forward culture. It is a culture that is very networked and very sympathetic to networking. It's very sympathetic to sharing knowledge. So it is the environment that is really open and can be easily transferred. And there is an amazing amount of know-how in this community. So having, our diagnosis was that it is the problem of mindset, and we decided that it will be exactly this mindset that we want to bring over here from Silicon Valley. After 3 years of investing, what have we done? We invested in 15 companies. 2 companies raised money in the US, and they relocated their headquarters to the US. And there are a couple of companies in our portfolio that will follow on this path. So it is what we did for last couple of years. And I would like to share with you what dream I had exactly this 4 years ago, at the time when we started Innovation Nest. So 4 years ago, I envisaged that there will be 10 startups coming from Poland and be present, connected to the ecosystem of Silicon Valley. Such startups that will be selling in the US and that will be funded from the US. So it is not just the problem of moving there, but it is the challenge to be connected to the local community that is there. And such startups, because what a big deal to transport to export companies from here there. But such startups that will continue to contribute to the local Polish startup community. So building these bridges, being there and being connected with this community, it was something that I thought will be really good to change the way the economy develops, the startups are built, the entrepreneurs work in this country. My thesis is, and it is a hypothesis, so it might be true, but it is my strong belief. My hypothesis is that if there is any local startup ecosystem, Krakow or Warsaw or any other city, and there will be 10 companies from this place that will relocate to Silicon Valley, then the new stage of development will start. In my opinion, if it is achieved, if there is such a big bridge as 10 companies moved there, there will be a critical mass of ecosystem, and it will lead to disruption. Something will change. The ecosystem will move to the next stage of development. So after passing this frontier, there is amazing network. So people who have problems will have the way to contact people who can help them. If there is just local network, entrepreneurs very often try to solve problems and don't know anybody who had similar problems in the past. So there is very little, people are doing almost everything for the first time. And it is not good, because there is amazing amount of experience in the world, and we should be innovative just about a small point, not about everything. We have to learn. If there is a bridge like that, then this power of network is unleashed. There are role models for everybody. There are role models for entrepreneurs, for people working in startups, for investors, for mentors. People simply see how it works. And there is plentiful of people in each of these roles. So there are plenty of entrepreneurs, there are plenty of mentors, and so on and so on. And the last thing, the local center that has these 10 companies in the valley, it starts to have a brand. It starts to be recognized globally. In my opinion, there are two cities in Europe that have passed this frontier. It is London and it is Berlin. These two cities are on the other side. They already already are at the next stage. And there are many centers in Europe that are approaching this stage. It is something that is happening in front of our eyes. This transition, these startup communities are really changing. And it is what we observe. There are two cities that become really global, and other cities in Europe, many cities in Europe are approaching this stage. So, I talked how it was in the past, and let's look where are we today. So today, it is, as far as I know, I might be wrong. There are 6 companies that are from Poland and that are the US companies, in the sense that they got funding from there and they sell in these markets. There are 5 companies in Silicon Valley and 1 in New York City. These companies are Base CRM, probably you know them. UXPin, it is a design tool company we invested in. There is Estimode, there is Brainly, Fido Labs, and Seed Labs. So we haven't got 10 yet, but we have 6. It is quite different than it was 3 years ago. There is a momentum, something is really changing. And there are dozen or maybe 2 dozens of companies that want to follow and will follow this path. It is quite arbitrary list of the companies that I think can do that, but there are many more of them. So there is something happening, and it is real. 3 years ago there were no such companies. Now there are 6 of them that already did it, and several others that are very likely to go this path. But this path, to go from here to the US, is not the only path of development. There are also plenty of companies that are headquartered in Poland and sell globally. And it is something really new. As I told you, in 90s, companies were not interested to go abroad. Polish market was big enough to create a mid-size or even big companies just over here. Then in 2000, it was also not happening. It starts to happen just now. I would like to give a couple of examples. The heavyweight players, it's integer.pl, that reinvents the e-commerce logistics with the lockers and not only. It is a huge company today. There is live chat. That is a great communication tool. There is a CD Projekt that is a game publisher and online games distributors. All these three companies are big successes today. They are headquartered over here and they sell in other markets. So there is not just one path how to develop. My thesis is that this US path is very important because of this mindset, because of this transfer of knowledge. It is the way how this ecosystem grows. Okay, I mentioned the heavyweight players, and there are dozens of companies that do the same. That are following this path. It is just a couple of them that I mention. I apologize for the order. I apologize for many things. It is just my subjective list. Yeah, it's my disclaimer. I have to tell that. So it was last 3 years. How startups in 2014 are different with startups in 2011. I think it is what I see. That 3 years ago it was like that people were saying, yeah, let us make something. Very often with not much thinking about that, but simply, yes, we have to build a company, we will be selling something. Today, it is the much more popular attitude is, let us build a product that solves a problem. We as an investor, we look at many decks, many applications. We talk with several people. 3 years ago, it was almost every time we had to drill the question, what problem do you solve? Today, most people are really prepared. They know what is their market. They know what problems they solve. I think that it is a huge positive difference. In the past, people were thinking, leaders were more thinking about the projects, short-term projects. Now they know that they are entering a long-term journey. And they know that it will be difficult, but some of them will build really great companies. 3 years ago, it was very often just excitement. Today, there are plenty of entrepreneurs that want to build real businesses. So there are changes in the community. There is the new kind of mentors. There are mentors who know mentoring, who know startups, and have a field expertise, so they can really help companies. There are quite a number of high-quality events. And there is a growing number of investors investing in tech startups. So we are progressing. There is a real change. The community is learning. The quality is improving. The ecosystem is robust. And it happened in just 3 years. So I think that it is something amazing what we see. We talked about the past, we talked about the present moment, and now I would like to tell you about my personal vision, what can be achieved. The first point, the first challenge that I think we have is to have 10 companies in Silicon Valley that are from Poland. As I told, as I told you before. When it will be achieved, then this networking with the best people in the world will be much easier than it is today. There will be this new quality of several processes will take place. But I think, and as I told you before, already we have 6 companies, but I think that the magic number is 10. And I'm talking about Poland as a whole, because we can also look at Krakow and Warsaw, and it is quite interesting comparison. I will not go into this direction today. But let us raise the bar. Let us make a much stronger challenge, and it is something that I strongly believe will happen, and it is something that I think that it should be somehow a goal for us as a community. So I would envisage that there are 10 companies with Silicon Valley-minded people that raised not 2 or 3 million US dollars, but that raised the round B financing. So companies that are 100 plus employees, or at least 50 plus employees, that are not testing new concepts, but that are really growing. If we have 10 such companies, it will be plenty of people working in such companies. It will be something different. So let us have 100 local and global investors, but top-notch investors who are really good, who fund Polish startups. Now, today, it is really hard to get funding for a company. There is a limited supply of investors in Poland, and there is and for investors in London, Polish startups are simply they are not used to it that they invest in Polish companies. Let us have 100 local and global investors who fund Polish companies. Let's us have 1,000 people who worked in startups, who worked in successful startups, who were founders, leaders, who were employees of startups, people who want to continue this path, people who want to become serial entrepreneurs. And let us have 10,000 people who are inspired by this top performance. So if we look 20 years ago, we can see that this whole tech innovation, it is really changing. So there are different periods, different generation of companies. It was 10 years ago that nothing was happening. It was after the bubble burst. Then my thesis is that it is really that we have these periods. We see that a lot changed during last 3 years. So let's us think about it, about the next 3 years. Let us see it that it can be a really powerful community with really powerful businesses being created. So there were these 2 challenges, and as I told you before, it's all, I mean, a lot of this is a issue of mindset. So to have all these people that I was speaking about before, with this pay-forward culture, with this culture of networking, and with this competence to solve problems that arise when you build a company. Let us have people who are building great companies that change the world, that do something really important. Not just one marginal app, there is nothing wrong about that, but let us have people who really want to change something, to build great companies. And all these people are participating in much bigger trend, in the digital revolution. So as you all know, software eats the world, and it is real. It started, 20 years ago, and it will last for another 20 years, or maybe, I don't know, maybe 50. But these changes are really deep. And we live in this world. There are these opportunities. We know that in 2 years, most industries will look differently than they look today. So just the last remarks are about the bigger picture. So I was talking about Poland, but in my opinion, the process is much bigger. What is happening now is that there is a global, there are arising a global network of local startup centers with Silicon Valley-minded people who are networked together and taking part in the digital revolution. So it is not just specific about Warsaw or Krakow or Poland. It is something that is taking place all over Europe and all over the world. It is a global phenomenon. Poland, Warsaw, Krakow are just examples. Yes, similar process take place in many centers. And I think that this global network leads to the next generation of global companies. Let's take part in this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sure there are some questions. Just ask.
Hello, my name is Patrick. Thank you for sharing your dreams. It seems like you want to export Polish startups abroad to Silicon Valley. And my question is, why not Europe? Why not start from Europe?
I mean, I don't want to export. I think that it is a necessary step to bring here some culture, know-how, and to set up Polish entrepreneurs in the global network. So it is a stage that is necessary. Why not Europe? It is like that. Silicon Valley is the center of the technological world, and it is the fact. The amount of know-how, of people, of experience, of the companies, it is not the factor of 10 comparing with any place in Europe. This gap is much bigger. So if we want to learn, we should learn in the place where this knowledge is the best.
Okay, we've got another question.
Bogusia Skowrońska, Capital Solutions. How important in your vision is, or how critical is attracting like a top-notch incubator, like Y Combinator or like parties to Poland to basically set up operations, maybe 3-4 parties like this, to basically transport and bridge this international Silicon Valley culture?
Well, I think that we all are taking part in a global race. So if we have the best investors, the best incubators, and so on over here, it will bring about it will be a positive force of competition. So it will improve not only the entrepreneurs, but it will also improve local incubators and local investors and so on. So I truly believe that it is very good. On the other hand, it is there is a danger of a brain drain. So any place have to be strong, not to be drained, and not to be, that all the talent will be taken away. I think that we don't have this problem that Poland is open enough that it is rather the both ways connection. So I'm not quite afraid of that, but we have to have this in mind. I would love to have. I mean, it's great that we have Google Campus in Poland. It is a great element of building the local brand and of unifying the community, and also bringing the know-how. I would love to have Techstars. I don't quite believe in that YC would come here because their philosophy is different. Yeah, they are very, very Silicon Valley centered.
Okay. Hello, I'm Chris. I'm an investor. I wonder, how do you find the stream of the new ideas? Because in 2011, I had the feeling that there were a lot of ideas, lots of really motivated people. But 3 years later, there is a great ecosystem, but it's a little bit less. I'm not saying that it's little, but it's a little bit less of new ideas. There, in IT, the salaries are much better, so many people choose the path of just being in the corporation. What's your feeling about this?
I don't quite agree. I mean, there is something in what you are saying, but people were more playing with ideas, and somehow the demand, I mean, the requirements of the others listening to the ideas were much lower. So it seemed that there were plenty of of the ideas around. Now, I mean, we can see several companies that have great ideas and great execution and this maturity, this ambition to build something big. There is the general knowledge what is going on in the world is bigger. So there are less and less people who are coming to us with great excitement, and they want to invent the next Facebook or the next mint, something not that popular. But so I think that it goes. Yeah, you are right that there are less ideas, but there is a better quality and it is much more deep.
Hi, I have a question. When we should start learn? You think that we should start learn in school? We should start learn when we should start to learn build companies.
I mean, there are two things to this two answers to this question. One is that the most important thing is what will happen during the next year or next 2 years. Because it is happening now. I mean, now this revolution take place. Either these communities here will take. I mean, either there will be this environment to build a business now will be improving constantly. So it is one goal, and in this goal, primary school or students are not that important. Even students are not that important. There is long path. But on the other hand, if you look more long term, you have to learn it very early. But I mean, I think that one of the worst things that happened in the educational system are the entrepreneurship classes that are run not by entrepreneurs and that are counterproductive. So I think that you should start at kindergarten, but not quite with entrepreneurship, with some attitude, with the attitude of being active, being self-confident, doing projects. Yeah, it's very important to have this attitudes very early on and teach these attitudes in schools.
We've got another question.
Hi, Beata Young. we met at Web Summit. I would like to ask you, Mission to Run, it's a local community in Toruń, and I would like to ask you, coming back to the first question about going to Silicon Valley, is very important thing. Isn't it up to local leaders to really lead and bring example to the local communities? Like we've seen in Krakow, in Warsaw, there is many big names coming to local communities and speaking, and even like giving our example, they speak over Google Hangout, and it's possible.
So the question is whether
why still you want the startups go to Silicon Valley?
I mean, it is. I mean, how to say it? I mean, at later stages of building a company, network is very important at any stage of building of any company. It is much easier. It is not it's not the. It's possible to build a company just doing your own job, but network is really important, and the quality of this network really matters, because it can help you to avoid mistakes. It can make lots of efforts much smaller. And it's not enough to know, I mean, and what is a good network? The good network is that if I or any entrepreneur has a huge challenge ahead of him or her, there is a way to get a valuable feedback. The best would be to get feedback from people who had similar problems. And I guarantee everybody, I mean, it is my strong conviction that if you have a network that in the moment that you have a huge challenge ahead of you, you can talk with 3 people who can give you completely different perspectives, completely different, solutions. But if you talk with them, then you are really in much better position. So this building a great network is important at every stage, and being there, building a great company there, gives you access to the best community. So I think that it is important to somehow to make this connection as strong as possible. I mean, Israel is a great country and it is a great example of the tech community. So it is exactly what happened. Why they are so successful with startups? Because many startups move there, and they are really connected with the community, and this network really operates. So it is my thesis that this network helps building companies. It changes the mindset, and it causes the better companies to be built.
Susie Kopczynski, what are the problem areas you think most in Poland's tech ecosystem? The main problem areas?
Oh gosh, it's a really tough question. Thank you very much for that. I mean, I don't have a clear answer. I mean, there are problems everywhere. I mean, if you touch anything, there are weak points. So, yeah, it's. I will think about that. Thank you very much for the question.
Hey, how's it going? It seems that the scene overall, or the startup industry, is going into specialization. So there's going to be Silicon Valley for drones, or Silicon Valley for Bitcoin, or Silicon Valley for fintech, etc. Do you see any area that any of the Polish startup scenes, or maybe the whole Polish ecosystem could specialize in, or any niche that we seem to be maybe specializing in?
Yeah, it's the vision of Mark Andreessen that it will go like that. I think that I think that with IoT is something really going on in Poland. But what is really important is that we should not we should wait. We should not somehow pin it too early that it is the direction, because it is all very, it's all very weak, and let's wait a couple of years. It is my opinion. On the other hand, I can see a couple of IoT startups, and there is somehow overrepresentation of this type of businesses.
Yes, okay. Another?
What do you want for Christmas?
Actually, I don't like to get presents for Christmas. What I love for Christmas, I would like to give presents for Christmas. It is something that makes me really happy.
Okay.
It depends to him. To who? Yeah.
Okay. Have you got any questions? We've got 5 minutes, so you can really try.
Hi, Łukasz Wróbel. You spoke a lot about building a network of people and companies. Do you see something problematic about building a network of capital here in Poland? Because my impression is that, especially in the early stage investing, most investors select and especially the seed stage invest as just alone in project. We don't have, we have some, but not a lot of examples of many funds investing together. Do you see it as a problem, or what has to happen to change it?
I mean, I think that it is changing. It is a really good question. And what I can see is, I mean, we are now in a couple of we negotiate in a couple of deals with other funds together. So it is, and it was impossible 3 years ago, and I think it is this mindset thing. I think that it is, and the Silicon Valley culture. So it happens only at the early stage. It happens only if you have the investors who think very in the same way, that have the same goals, that see the world in similar ways. Because if investors have different, if they have strong view and it differs, then it is a mess. It is a disaster, and it is a disaster. Yeah. So it is somehow changing, and there is this people who think alike. And I see that it is not just Poland, it is a European phenomenon. So there are more and more, and it is something that I really, that I'm pointing, that the world is going in this direction. That in Europe there are the new kind of investors, early stage investors, who think very similar in the same way. Who have the same values, and they will be co-investing, and so it is happening. There was.
Unfortunately, it must be last question.
When you're making your investment decisions, what do you really look for in a person or in the company? Are there any, like, maybe 2-3 things that you like straight away thinking, okay, he must be doing this, or acting in this way, having like open mind, willing to go abroad, or creating things locally?
I mean, basically they have to be 3 or 4 things. The first is that we have to believe that this person is capable to build a big company. And if you ask what exactly it means, it will be much more difficult to answer. But somehow there must be this, you know, this belief that it is this person. This person does not need to be ready for that today, but there must be the belief that this person will learn and will manage to be in such a position. The second thing, that the idea of the product or the product have to be really good. So it must be something that is it must be a good product that really solves a problem and really yeah. And the third thing is the big vision. There must be some, you know, competitive advantage, a big market. There must be something in the future that is important.
Okay, thank you very much. And after the break, I hope we'll meet here again in 15 minutes. Okay.